I'm Nintendo.
And I'm Sega.
This is Console Wars!
Halloween! A night where the line between the living and the dead is truly blurred, where people dress as all sorts of creatures in the night. Truly a celebration of horror. Don't you agree?
Spooks and specters, ghosts and goblins. Who doesn't like a good scare? Oh, look! The Loch Ness Monster!
Dirty pool, old man.
Now, boys, is that any way to behave in front of our guests? Really, getting my utensils dirty? Play with this chainsaw instead.
Oh no, we don't mind all that.
No, just our food. We're just not used to it being so alive.
Yeah, I mean, do you have any vegan options?
Of course! It is the 21st century, after all.
Wow, that's a relief. Thank you, Lurch. Thanks! That's a lot better.
I haven't had this much fun since our last time out. Remember the fires, the screams, the ritualistic human sacrifices?
Yes, we all had a great time at Denny's.
So what's on the agenda tonight?
We hope you two are ready for the scariest night of your lives.
We've got all out to frighten you two tonight.
We are the scariest family, after all.
But you guys aren't scary. You're fun.
Yeah, like when you guys dance. Are you guys gonna be dancing tonight? Because I totally brought my parachute pants.
Dancing? Fun? Has the world gone mad? We are scary. We are terrifying. We are Addamses.
Yeah, but that's why we love you guys. I mean, you're not really scary. You're more like quirky.
Yeah, I don't think I've been scared of the Addams Family since the video game.
Ooh, the video game. You know, that game gets a lot of flack, but I really enjoy it.
And once you get past all its faults, it's actually pretty fun.
Oh yeah, it's a pretty good game for the Sega Genesis.
I think it's better for the Super Nintendo.
What? That's it? Are we doing this?
That's a good question. We're at a guest's house.
Right. Would you guys happen to have a room with the Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis in it?
There is one room, but it is so horrendous. So unholy.
Don't do it, Gomez.
So terrifyingly frightening. I fear for your life.
Yep. Should have known they'd find a normal looking room terrifying.
Is it weird that this room is exactly like ours? I mean, they got everything we do, right down to the scented candles. Black raspberry vanilla.
But most importantly, it's got consoles.
Best Addams Family.
The Addams Family, created by cartoonist Charles Addams in 1938, was originally a one-panel comic strip. The Addams Family gained lots of popularity with the 1964 TV show and its memorable theme song. The Addams Family was eventually adapted into a movie in 1991.
The film was a hit. With its success came a sequel, a best-selling pinball machine, and of course, video games. Games were released for Nintendo, Sega Master System, Game Boy, Game Gear, and PC. But the ones we're looking at today are the ones for the Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis, both developed by Ocean Software. Very similar games with some differences. Which one's better? Let's find out.
The games look incredibly similar.
Yeah, they're not the best looking games.
Both games aren't the prettiest to look at. Just look at Gomez. He looks more like John Astin than Raul Julia. How did this happen? The pictures of the Addams Family look like they did in the movie, but none of the sprites really look like them.
Levels don't really look like they did in the movie either. They take inspiration, but they're not really the same. They have the Addams Family mansion, the vault with a combination, eyes, fingers, toes, the cemetery, the garden, the kitchen, I think I saw that, Gomez's trains, the library, Pugsley's room with removed road signs, and the gondola.
The other levels are pretty random. You go in the fridge, you go in the oven, there's this creepy old tree, an underground level, the inside of a crypt, a game room that looks more like a torture chamber, a chain room, a room with lots of family portraits, and a cavern.
The enemies don't look that great either. Most are pretty generic spooky enemies. Ghosts, mummies, pumpkins that shoot flames, etc. There's also plenty of random stuff like these floating guys, or flying bunnies. Sure, lots of random floating things in these games. They added faces to inanimate objects like teapots or this ball and chain. Not the best enemy design.
The bosses are pretty generic too. A snowman, floating centipedes, a witch, a spiky fire dragon, a goblin, a wacky scientist who's only a head, a bird, cause why not? The only boss maybe inspired from the movie is the judge, and he looks nothing like he did in the film.
Two pretty poor adaptations of the movie.
Right. But I still think mine looks better.
Look at the sky on Sega. Looks like some creepy painting. It's pretty stylish. It looks a lot more interesting than the generic moon and stars on Super Nintendo. Then there's this level. You can turn the lights off. Looks kinda like a negative on Sega. When you do it on Super Nintendo, some of the level just goes black. Not as cool as Sega.
My game just looks better.
That's because you're nitpicking. Let me show you why my game really looks better.
Just look inside the Addams mansion. Here's the background on the Super Nintendo. It's dark and looks far away. Then look at the Sega. Really bright. It doesn't look as sharp. Same with Pugsley's Den. Not only does the color give the Super Nintendo more depth, but the wall has a design too. It's not plain like the Sega game. All the levels on the Super Nintendo have a darker look, which works better. The muted colors on Super Nintendo are much easier on the eyes. Even the portraits look better on the Super Nintendo. Morticia has makeup on the Super Nintendo. Not in the Sega game, and Morticia would never be caught without makeup.
And one of my levels puts yours to shame.
Here's the chain room. Check out the moving chains in the foreground and background. Looks pretty sweet. And on Sega? They don't. The chains in the foreground only move with some parallax scrolling. Definitely looks better on the Super Nintendo game.
It's close, but my game has the edge.
With better use of color, better use of lighting, and more details, best graphics go to Super Nintendo.
Hello, boys.
Morticia!
You boys thirsty? I brought you some drinks.
Wow, thanks, Morticia.
What is it?
It's a potion that will help you get through the games.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, cheers.
But there are side effects. Nausea, fever, diarrhea.
Typical Saturday night, am I right?
And you won't be able to drink alcohol for 15 minutes.
There's lots of similarities to presentation.
Both games start with Thing doing his thing. This also happens during the ending. The title screen looks very in tune with the movie. And both games have similar looking cutscenes when you save someone.
The HUDs are similar too.
Both show life bars, lives, money, points, name of the room, and boss's life bar. Very similar and very simple.
Similar, but my presentation goes the extra mile. Let's take a look at that pausing.
Check it out when you pause on Sega. Classy. Now check out pausing on Super Nintendo. Ugh, that's embarrassingly plain.
Now let's check out the intros.
On Sega, after you see Thing do his thing, you see the Addams Family mansion with lightning and bats. Spooky. And well done. Now look at the Super Nintendo. Okay, here's the Thing doing his thing, and then nothing. That's right, no lightning, no bats, but most importantly, no Addams mansion. Why didn't they include it? We both have the mansion in the ending. It doesn't make sense that you don't have it in your intro.
I think my presentation's better. Just look at the cutscenes.
We have the same looking cutscenes, but look at my pictures. They're much brighter on the Super Nintendo. I know I complained about the Sega game being too bright, but profile pictures is not the place to go dark. The Sega pictures look like they're loading. Like they'll be bright if you just wait a little bit longer, but nope, still dark.
Well, who cares about that? Your game's still missing things.
You want to talk about missing things? Let's look at the hints.
There are hint boxes spread throughout the game. To activate, simply hit with your head. On Super Nintendo, you'll see Thing go off the screen and then come back with a hint. On Sega, you don't see Thing going up, only down. In extra detail, missing in the Sega game.
What? That's barely anything.
Fine. Let's look at something big. The endings.
The ending on the Super Nintendo has Gomez and Morticia, the mansion, Thing, and then the credits. Okay, now let's look at the Sega. Gomez and Morticia, the mansion, Thing, and then back to the beginning of the game? Huh? What happened to the credits? Shouldn't we know who worked on the game? And not only does the Super Nintendo give you the credits, but you get their pictures. It's a celebration of the developers and it's charming. How many games do they actually show the faces of the people who worked on them? It's pretty cool. Sega doesn't give you their faces. Sega doesn't even give you their names. Sure, Super Nintendo is missing 2 things, but missing these credits is huge.
Sorry, but missing credits is big. My presentation's better.
For having better looking profile pictures during cutscenes, a little more Thing, but most importantly, having actual credits and fun pictures of the people who worked on the game, best presentation goes to Super Nintendo!
Hello, boys!
Faster!
I thought I'd help you beat the games. Perhaps more light.
He's gonna do the thing! Oh.
Not what you were expecting? How about this?
All right.
Aren't you gonna do the thing?
Yeah, you know, with the mouth.
Oh, you think I just put a light bulb in my mouth for anyone? The nerve. Oh, just kidding.
We both have the same music by Jonathan Dunn.
And we both have the theme song. And even though we have the same songs, my music's still better.
The music on Sega is faster. It can sound more spooky too.
My music definitely sounds better.
The instrumentation on Super Nintendo is miles above Sega's.
Doesn't sound much better to me. Plus, your game's missing a sound effect.
When I get the Fez on Sega, it sounds like a helicopter. Makes sense because it helps you fly. And on Super Nintendo, just this thing that sounds like digging.
And you know what else my game has? Voiceovers.
The Sega game is loaded with voiceovers. Listen to this boss. Now listen on Super Nintendo. No voiceover. Here's another Sega boss. And now on Super Nintendo. The Sega bosses have voiceovers. Eureka! But none of the Super Nintendo bosses do. Sega for the win.
Your game's missing too much.
What did I tell you about missing things before? That's what your game does. Let's go back to the music.
The Super Nintendo has an exclusive boss theme. Sega just reuses music from another level. It does this a few times.
Eureka!
This track is also a Super Nintendo exclusive. And even the ending track on Super Nintendo is exclusive. The Sega just reuses the main theme. Starting to see a pattern here? I also have music and sound effects during the ending. You don't have that on Sega. Just silence. Fun.
So I'm missing a few songs. It's no big deal.
It's more than a few. Let's talk about the boss battles again.
When you beat a boss, you hear a victory theme. Sega only has one theme. The Super Nintendo game has two. This one is exclusive. Instead, for certain boss fights, there's no victory music on Sega. Also, the victory music on Super Nintendo keeps playing after the cutscene. It goes right back to the stage music on Sega. I also get this exclusive fanfare after one boss.
And even with all that, there's still one big problem with your music.
For this level, both games use the same song. For some reason, however, the Sega game stops playing music for the armory, the weaponry, the closet, and the lower gallery. Why? The Super Nintendo game has music for all those stages. Makes no sense why the Sega music stops. Super Nintendo never has a silent stage.
A few voiceovers is nothing compared to all the music you're missing.
For songs with better instrumentation and having a more complete soundtrack, best sound goes to Super Nintendo!
Hello, boys!
Gomez!
You've been up here a while. Thought you could use a hand.
Thing! Oh, just take the stick, sir.
Can't wait to see what he'll do. Wow.
That was incredible. I have never seen anyone play that bad.
I know! He didn't even make it inside the house. He kept just dying in the corner.
What's the matter, old man? You drink too much? Come, we'll get you some coffee.
The gameplay is very similar.
It's pretty much identical.
You play as Gomez Addams in this action platformer. You have one button to jump and one to use any items you acquire. Gameplay is somewhat open world in that you can go to any level right from the beginning. Some stages are definitely more difficult than others, and there will be some trial and error. You need to choose the order of the levels wisely. Object of the game is to rescue your family members in various parts of the Addams mansion.
The game is loaded with generic enemies that you can take out in one hit. Your main attack is jumping. You do have items you can use as weapons, like a golf ball or a sword. Careful though, because you lose your weapon as soon as you get hit. The trade-off is when that happens though, you don't lose any life. There's also sneakers to make you run fast, a fez that can make you fly, and a shield that makes you temporarily invincible.
One good thing is the enemies don't respawn as long as you don't leave the room or die. The game is very generous with checkpoints too. You usually respawn very close to where you died. Makes it a lot easier to get through the game.
There are dollars spread throughout the game. Every 25 you get, you replenish a heart. Get 100, and that's a 1-up. There's also points. They actually help in this game. Every 50,000 points gives you a 1-up. The game has unlimited continues. There's also a nice and short password system, which can be useful since the game is a bit on the long side.
Other than the sliding, this is a pretty solid platformer.
Yeah, I mean, it does have some interesting mechanics.
One way the game's interesting is the life bar. You start out with 2 hearts, which makes it seem very difficult, but beating certain bosses gives you more hearts. You can get up to 5 total. You can get through the game without beating the bosses and getting the hearts, but it would be pretty difficult. You get to choose how you'll beat the game. Not bad for a silly platformer.
Levels can be long. Levels can be loaded with enemies. Seems like the game just wants you to die. Maybe at first, but not once you realize this game is loaded with secrets. There are lots of hidden doors, which usually lead to many rewards. It really opens up exploration in this game. You can spend lots of time just trying to find power-ups to even the odds in your favor.
But sometimes power-ups aren't enough. That's okay. There are also lots of shortcuts too. These levels can get very long. If you search around enough, you might find a shortcut which will let you skip a lot of stages. Even doors you just came through can be a secret path. It really pays to explore in this game. Games are always more interesting when there's multiple ways to beat a level. Not bad for a movie game.
The bosses are interesting too. They have patterns you need to figure out. They require strategy to defeat. Get lots of one-ups through exploration, figure out a boss's pattern, save a member of your family. It's a very solid platformer, and definitely better than the average licensed movie game.
So which one's better? These games are exactly the same.
Not exactly. The Super Nintendo game has a few things yours doesn't.
The Super Nintendo has this exclusive inch move. Gomez slides a lot when he moves. After a jump and when you stop running, he slides. Inching on the Super Nintendo removes that sliding and makes it easier to be precise. You don't have to worry about falling off a platform with inching. Simply hit the L or R button and stand where you need to be.
Yeah, but that's a small addition.
It's still an addition, plus I have one more exclusive.
On Super Nintendo, when you pause and hit select, you're given the option to reset. What this does is take you to the continue screen from where you can go back to the main hall. This might not seem like a big deal, but it's actually very useful. After some boss battles, a door takes you back to the hall. After other boss battles, you might have to go through a bunch of stages again. That's some backtracking you don't need. Good thing on Super Nintendo, you can just select the option and reset. This sends you back with all your lives, and you retain any hearts you've gained or person you've saved. The reset essentially saves you a lot of hassle and time. The Sega game doesn't have it. You have to backtrack, and if you don't want to do that, yeah, you just have to kill yourself. It can be really annoying if you have a lot of lives too. Soft reset on Super Nintendo for the win!
It may not be much, but it's enough for an edge. Gameplay goes to Super Nintendo.
For having buttons to inch forward and having a nice reset to avoid any backtracking, best gameplay goes to the Super Nintendo!
Both games are similar, but one is better, and that's The Addams Family for the Super Nintendo.
It has better graphics with better use of color, better lighting, and more details. It has better presentation with actual credits and pictures of the developers. It has better sound with solid instrumentation and a lot more songs. It has better gameplay with an inch button and a reset from the pause menu. This game is surprisingly fun. It just has less than stellar graphics. If you can get past that, you're in for a good time. The Sega game isn't bad, it's just missing things the Super Nintendo game has. The lack of music and silence during some stages is still confusing. Overall, the Super Nintendo game has more. Best Addams Family goes to Super Nintendo!
Well, now that that's done, let's go see what these Addamses have planned for us.
What better way to scare you than home movies?
They're gonna watch films of famous Addamses.
And their deaths.
Stinky Addams, the most foul-smelling Addams there ever was. One day he accidentally sprayed himself with cologne, and he no longer smelled.
He went mad. He died in an asylum years later.
Pretty cool.
Here we have Itchy Addams, scratching all day and night. And then one day, he found some cortisone cream, and he was no longer itchy.
He too went mad and died in an asylum years later.
Oh.
Here we have Jeremy Addams, always covered in disease. One day, he accidentally used hand sanitizer.
Let me guess. He went mad and died in an asylum years later?
No, diabetes.
Ooh.
That's not as fun.
No.
And finally, we have these two, not actually Addamses.
Huh, I feel like I've seen this.
I'm getting a weird deja vu. I don't get it.
That never happened to us.
Not yet.
thanks for checking out our latest video. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And check us out on Patreon for earlier releases and bonus content. Special thanks to Xavier the Lycan for his donation of the games. And thanks to everyone who suggested Addams Family. And keep those suggestions coming. We will get to them. Also, check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for more Console Wars goodness. Later!